Yeah, I think that is really exciting. One thing I want to talk about now is a transition into the corporate world, into this kind of consulting role. And how did you actually end up in this disability support, this whole disability thing, which you obviously your start is in that space. How did you then fall into this, that
The great
term?
thing about being in a consulting role is you do get to dabble in quite a lot of different industries, and you do get to become a little bit of a subject matter expert or enough of a subject matter expert and then move on to the next thing. I was lucky enough to work in the media and entertainment industry, of course, but also kind of worked in social enterprise across Southeast Asia. So did strategy and product work for a number of Southeast Asian social enterprises, and then was also lucky enough to work on healthcare systems, major healthcare systems in Australia, designing product and kind of understanding that consumer experience. So I got to pick up this kind of set of skills that, across kind of social impact and then across healthcare and then across that digital music experience. But
Mm,
the actual, to be honest with you, the actual kind of trigger point of what made us say, hey, we should start a business ourselves was through an event that well, friend of ours, of my best friend and mine, that was studying at university and training for a triathlon, and he slipped and hit his head and suffered a traumatic brain injury. And it was after that, he spent 9 months in rehab hospital after being paralyzed, losing his memory. And he was surrounded by therapists that were all teaching him about all the things that he would need to do when he got home, pressure
mm,
care and how to manage support workers and what your exercise physiology is going to look like, and how to change a catheter, and how to manage your mobility. And it's a lot for somebody to take in if they have if they've suffered a brain injury and they're paralyzed and they're going through this traumatic experience. So when he was discharged from the rehab hospital home, he and his family forgot a lot of what they learned. It just made it really, really challenging to stay on top of all of those therapy programs and manage a team of support workers. And beyond just doing like the minimum care of rehab things that they educated you on, like just to do things that make you human, like go back to university or find a job. There was no time to do any of that because he was spending so much of his time managing his physiological health that it made it so much harder to just enjoy being human. And he was readmitted back to hospital with infections and complications and all of these things that could have been avoided. And my background in kind of product and kind of product and user experience, combined with my best friend's background as a therapist, actually, and looking at this kind of
mm.
experience that our friend went through, we really thought to ourselves, there has to be a way to address some of these challenges through technology. And there has to be a way to address the access to information challenges, because that's what technology's always been amazing at, helping people access information. There has to be a way to address these management of a care team kind of challenges, because again, technology is amazing at connecting and coordinating. And there also has to be a way to use technology to help him remotely access things from home, because look at us right now. We've never met each other in person and we're having a conversation online. So that for us was really that spark that made us say, hey, this is worth solving. And we didn't just go and start Maslow like off the back of that. We didn't go, all right, let's create a company. There's a challenge. Let's figure this out. The start of it was actually a kind of a slower testing the waters experience for an entire year before quitting kind of my job as a consultant. We connected with hundreds of people, young people with spinal cord injuries all across Australia, all the way over in Perth and Northern Territory and pretty much every city and state. And we spoke to them, and we didn't try and jam a solution down anyone's kind of put a solution in anyone's face or recommend anything. We just listened, and that's it. And we listened to try and understand whether the experiences of young people with spinal cord and traumatic brain injuries across Australia were similar or different to what our friend experienced. And we listened and co-designed and co-created what they asked for. And there were prevalent themes in all of this. People found it hard to stay on top of their therapy programs from home. They all were frustrated by verbally educating their support workers every single day. And they all said that they wished that they could just have a platform where they could do all of this in the one place, and remotely access all of their content, because they were sick of traveling to their clinical appointments for really basic needs. So it was through 2019 that immersing and researching and listening, but also prototyping and testing with this group. So the result of that was we built a community already before we'd even launched that knew exactly what they wanted, knew exactly what we were delivering, and that we knew exactly what their kind of setup was. But it wasn't actually until March 2020 that we were forced to try and push something live. And that was because the community that we were co-designing with that already had access issues to to healthcare, that already had challenges regulating and managing their support workers, and already were looking for digital solutions that their therapists weren't willing to provide. They were all locked out of their clinics because of COVID. And
Mm.
a lot of people may not know this, but people with severe disabilities and paralysis were at the highest risk at that time. And we're having a lot of the, how do I say this? We're probably some of the ones that held the most fear, because it wasn't like you or I where we could think about this and go, okay, this may not affect us that badly. I mean, for somebody living with respiratory issues, they thought about COVID as something that could genuinely have a severe and negative impact on their well-being at a young age.
Mm.
So the relationship changed from, hey, we're prototyping this virtual solution with these guys, to them going, hey, that prototype that you guys have been working with us on, well, I could really use it right now because I need remote access to my therapist, and I need to be able to regulate my support workers' activities around all of the COVID precautions. So yeah, we were forced to push it live in March 2020, and things just, I guess, grew from that.
Yeah, wow. That's another really like fascinating story. To go along with your story earlier, I think as well, this another one of those kind of events that's really thrust you into this whole new world and has brought about, great things as well, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I think with both of those though, that I reflect on this a lot, and I don't want it to sound like there was some golden goose or golden opportunity that was presented with at the time, because again, honestly, in both of those scenarios, they didn't make sense at the time. It's only in hindsight that I'm able to say how it all hangs together. Even with Maslow, for example, that first year, 2019, when we went out and did research, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were going to build, and we weren't fully sure of what problem we were even solving back then. I can talk about it now because I've gone through the experience and kind of had those learnings. But
Mm.
back then, we were making it up as we were going along and learning to be entrepreneurs. We didn't go, hey, we're going to be startup founders and then immediately possess the skills and capabilities and maturity and expectations. It was just naivety and an intent to do it. Um,
Mm.
but it's actually been the experience since then and embracing what we've learned that's enabled us to say, hey, this is why we did it. And this is what we learned. And this is what we needed to do.